Okay. I went ahead because it's recording now. So, so yeah, we'll go back and talk about this stuff that y'all are talking about. So, I mean, as far as 3-Eye Atlas being, actually, before I go into all that, thanks for everyone for the coming into the Gemini full moon telecall on 12/4/25, December 4th, 25. So, yeah, we've started talking about, actually, I think we had somebody else come on.
Anna.
Oh, hi, Anna. How you doing?
Hey.
Yeah, so y'all were mentioning about that 5-eye or 3-eye atlas. They're talking about being stationary in the sky. So when I look at it through my trajectory, I'm trying to remember who it was that I had pulled this information from, but they tracked it through the zodiac, and they don't have it leaving until after the eclipses next year. I think like March the 12th, I think, is when the last date is that they had it. And that doesn't mean it wouldn't be here longer. But it's going through an approach now, according to this. But, I mean, maybe, and again, this was made when this was first perceived back, they had it coming in July the 1st, but they call it a pre-covery date, taking it back into May the 6th of this year. And so that meant it was really coming in around the galactic center or the middle of Sagittarius for 2 months before actually being, quote, discovered, as far as when they put the discovery date. So the fact that it was just hanging around, it wasn't really moving a lot at that time. So I don't know if it's doing that type of action now. I don't think it's on its way out. I think that it's got some more movement in the trajectory. But if depending on what this is, I mean, it seems like science, technology centers, space centers, they all agree it's there. They originally were calling it a comet, some were calling it spaceships. I mean, it depends on who you ask as far as what they're calling it. Right now, according to my stuff, it's actually, it entered Virgo back at the just right before Thanksgiving, around the 24th. So it's somewhere around there. Depends on whose trajectory you want to follow. But at that point, it was squaring the galactic center. And anytime you have something squaring the galactic center, it's workable energy. I mean, it can be challenging. Squares can be challenging, but it really kind of initiates a change. So it was working with the galactic center at that time. And what's interesting, the Gregory asteroid crossed it on November the 27th. So somewhere around there. I mean, maybe Pam Gregory as a frequency is tuned into it, and this was conjunction, so it's right there with the actual path. So maybe she's, feeling the energy of it in a more direct sense. And I mean, anyone who's been on this call for a while has listened to me talk about these things. Everything is a frequency. I mean, just everything. And another woman who actually made an ephemeris for it. An ephemeris is a path that's made for stars and planets and any orbiting objects in the sky based on its trajectory at any given moment of time along the path of the Earth, or the ecliptic plane, which is basically it's the main plane where everything orbits around the Earth. And of course, I mean, it has certain degrees up or down, but it's not out all over. I mean, basically everything is on a plane. So the sun going out is, giving sight, if you will, to all of these different objects within the plane. And she had put the 3-eye atlas at this point, had gone off about it projected it forward by about 7 or 8 days from what I had suggested, but then her path even comes back into where my projection was by the end of this month. Where it's at now, though, it actually has her path on the Gregory asteroid today on this moon at 29 degrees of Virgo. So I don't know what that means. And that's also on the Libra world point. That is in opposition to the Aries world point, which is the Alpha Omega point. So who knows where it's at and what's happening, but there's not any indication from it. Oh, and then, well, not to be left out. I don't want to be left out. If we go on my path, my John asteroid is right on the 3i Atlas conjunction right now. As long as the Waldemus Lilith, and as well as and then next week the Judith asteroid will be sitting on it on the south node. So Judith's going to come from the past and come talk to us about 3i Atlas. I guess who knows what this stuff. It's so funny. You can't make this stuff up. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what to really make of that. The only thing we really know, I mean, as far as their projection of their what they say is a value, is that it's an an intercosmic, object, whatever it is. It does not behave as a comet. It doesn't have the tail that's supposed the way they say it does. And in November, it was crossing the Bray asteroid, the Carla Jung asteroids, I mean, and the Ison comet. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe, everything that is a frequency, if there's something that represents us within our names, and again, all of these asteroids that are the named asteroids are all floating in the main asteroid belt. Not the far belt out, but the main asteroid belt, which is in between Mars and Jupiter. And so these are close. I mean, there's about 2 million asteroids in that belt. So the fact that 3i Atlas is, activating a lot of the things within that belt, I mean, maybe there's not a coincidence that if everything is a frequency, if we're vibrating according to our names, if we're vibrating according to our locations on the planet, then maybe some people are more in tune with this object than others. I mean, who knows what the truth is regarding it. But either way, if it's something that was not in the solar system, it came in the solar system, it's floating along the ecliptic plane, which most comets pass through on a more vertical or at least a more severe angle. But this thing is floating parallel with everything here, with all the other planets. It is an apparent retrograde motion, which would be taking us more into an internal awareness, I think. So, and the fact that it was in Libra all the way through like the 22nd of November, it's now going back in Virgo, and it went past my Uranus. It's gone past my Pluto. All of those things. Actually, it's on my Pluto now on my name, according to my trajectory here.
Hi.
What is that? Hello. So I mean, here's the other thing that I kind of have been taking in with some of this too. There's so much information that's floating out there. Everyone's got a YouTube channel. Everyone's got to channel this and got to channel that, and they're projecting their value, what they perceive to be happening based on where their frequency is. Does that make any of it untrue? No, it's true for them and their perception of reality in that particular moment of time. Whether other people perceive that or not, doesn't really take away from what others are perceiving. And some souls come here really, really open. They're not deeply immersed in the false realities. They're not deeply immersed in false timelines. They're not, they've emerged themselves as an awareness, as cosmic awareness, to the point where they're not stuck in lower false creation. But let's put it that way. And again, even that gets kind of tricky because we're projecting a value on what's a false creation and what's a real creation. And if anything's here and we're all perceiving it, then we're perceiving a creation. But when you go into multidimensional awareness, you then have the capacity to perceive any moment of time throughout this space-time continuum, as it were. And you can also perceive people just as presence. And you can perceive them from past reality, the current reality, and some people like to project into the future as far as future reality. At the same time, it's always best to be in this now moment rather than do a projection. Because if we're projecting something, then we're projecting a value on what we think another person or place or thing is going to create. And so in a way that would mean that we're projecting onto someone else's causality. And I don't think that's what we came here to do. We came here to be. And to the extent that we can just be here as a cosmic awareness, as it's kind of like being a witness for the external world, so that we can hold accountability, not just for ourselves, but other people too. But holding that accountability is a very tricky thing, because we've been had a projection put onto us that we individually and collectively, especially in countries, through judicial systems, which are false. But we had to have some way of having, navigating, quote, right and wrong, or, having people kill us, or, rape, rob, murder, all these things. We have to have some framework of a collective ideology of what we're going to accept to be or not be. But at the same time, the other thing that's happening on a huge global scale, actually it's cosmic scale, we're going through such a vast acceleration of disintegration of the old reality. And I do think the Three-Eyed Atlas object, whatever that is taking us into that, because of the fact it did come in. Of course, you've got the other comets, Comet Lemon. There was Borisov earlier, like in 2018. I'm not sure exactly where that one is. And then there was another, I forget what the other comet was. Anyway, but there's three major interstellar objects that are out there. I don't necessarily trust NASA's we'll call it their definitions. And it really goes into this whole idea that everything is scripted. Everything. The major news medias are scripted. The politicians, everything they say and do are scripted. I've said this for decades, and I do believe that to be true. And you can't really come up with another reason why so many politicians just sit back and allow someone else just to do everything, and they don't say anything. There's no really deep backlash, not like we've had before. It's almost like everybody has rolled over and played dead in today's world, and it doesn't matter which country you go into. Now, citizens in other European countries are more. They're more getting more out. They're more vocal. They're more rebellious. They're more in a space where you're not going to do this to us. We have been, I think, had so much, the the chemtrails have been putting so much into our skies, the food source. I mean, we've been poisoned so completely and deeply that we've gotten to a place where we just don't care. And there's also, not to mention it's a technological war, and they have put so much in place that keep people stuck into their phones. I mean, it just amazes me when I walk around and people their heads are in the phone. It doesn't matter what time of day it is, what they're doing. They do it when they're eating. They do it when they're driving. They can't get off the damn phone. And that's a deep conditioning. But it also comes partly from technology, but it also comes from hijacking the soul. And that's a really long dynamic, which I'm not going to go into in this call. But that's one thing Judith tracked in all her work, was how the soul gets hijacked, how we defer and give away our power to something or someone else out there. And wow, I didn't envision going into any of this. It's like I tell you, I start going and spirit just takes me there. So, the fact that we have all of this cosmic consciousness, I think, awakening, and I do think that we're awakening. Mike, you mentioned, several of y'all have mentioned, all the plasma stuff that's going off of the sun, it's hitting us. It really is awakening the DNA process. I mean, we always came here to do this. Some people are just really up on it. They're deeply immersed in it. They feel the bigger energy shifts. They feel the cycles. And, for people that are deeply attuned, they can articulate these things. And so when you listen to these YouTube videos, you think, oh, okay, well, some people may feel like they're really wild and out there with some of the things that they articulate. And then some people you may think, oh, well, they're not very grounded because we've got all the war going on the planet. We've got this, we've got that, whatever else. But what it really boils down to is it shows you how vast all of the different infinite levels of creation are on the planet. But what's happening is the people that really want the higher timelines are articulating it more and more and more. So you get more and more videos, you get more people talking about it, you get more, and again, it's a frequency. So the frequencies are actually raising within, our cosmic solar system. And it's not just the solar system, it's all the sun-daughter universes, so on and so forth, the great central sun, great central sun, so on and so forth. And of course, we emanate from the Milky Way, which is in Sagittarius, which is where a lot of this energy is approaching, and a lot of these personal planets, as I've talked about in the last, I've been talking about this all year, really, when I made this spreadsheet up. And I do think I'm getting closer and closer to actually doing the video. This has been there's a lot to this, and I want to get it right, but when I put it out, because once I put it out, I can't undo it. So I've got to make sure I can include everything that I want initially. But with December, and I said this for so long, all of the personal planets are heading into the galactic center. And it's starting with the Jonathan Murray asteroid sitting on the galactic center right now, as well as the Nikola Tesla. Mars is approaching the galactic center. Varda is there. That's one of the other planets that Pam Gregory talks about a lot. Pamela just moved to the galactic center last month. But Juno is there partnering. The sun is approaching it right before the solstice. Venus is then going to approach it. Mercury will approach it at the end of the year. And then oscillating Lilith has already been dancing around it, approaching it, but not entered it. As a matter of fact, oscillating Lilith will not enter the galactic center until Mercury goes in. It actually goes in the day after Christmas, and it's going to sit right at that last part of Sagittarius. And the reason that is so significant is the fact that actually, I guess I'll go into a little bit with this, but the oscillating Lilith pattern is it's the moon's apogee. It's the furthest point of the moon from the Earth, and so I feel like it represents the highest divine feminine expression when it's used in the highest expression. If people are still on the lower Lilith, that can be really sleazy sex. It can be, they're really dark expressions. Jilted, cheated, screw you. It can be really dark. Take any, what you've always heard about, a woman scorned, and that can be not pretty. Again, that just comes from deep wounding, and we're clearing out these wounds. So I think the fact that we've had all of these other things happen with Three Eye Atlas as a cosmic awareness come in and waking things up, it's already come through the oscillating Lilith pattern. So I think it's already awakened that as an awareness. So I think when we have all these things crescendoing from now through the end of this month, and everything passes through the galactic center, this is it. I really think this is the eye of the needle as far as a wake up. And the fact that all the personal planets are there, I think will make a difference. Does that mean everybody's going to wake up, at the end of this month? I highly doubt it, because you've got too many people that still are very deeply immersed in the false reality. They're deeply immersed in the distortion patterns, but that doesn't mean that reality is going to continue to exist easily. I do think that the energy that holds the distortion together is going through disintegration. And so what this is all leading to, though, is setting us up so that when we get to the next set of eclipses that are going to be in the middle of February 17th. February 17th till March the 3rd. March the 3rd is the second eclipse, so that they're earlier this year. All the eclipse series keeps moving a little more forward every time they come along. But by the time we get into March, everything's going to be really going forward, because we're going to have Saturn direct, we'll have Neptune direct, and the fact that this month is really big. Saturn went direct November the 27th, so that was only last week. Mercury went direct 2 days later on the 29th. That's a big deal. So you've got planet of communication. And this is all kind of communication, not just how you communicate with each other, but it's nations communicating together. It's also how we communicate with God, with however you perceive God to be. So it's on a micronic level. It's awakening us in a communication with our source, in my perception. I also say that because Mercury is going, let me see, on the 8th, Mercury is going to dive into the oscillating Lilith path yet again. As a matter of fact, it's been retrograding back and forth through the path. Let me see, it first entered, this was going on back in actually during the September eclipses. That's when I think it first entered. So it's been going back and forth, the Lilith pattern, but Mercury went direct over it and crossed all the personal planets, if y'all remember, in November. So the fact that it's doing that, and they're all coming back forward, we're just going back forward. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mute. I forgot to mute. Okay, sorry about that. I kept thinking we might get into an actual discussion, but then I just went right into this, and discussion didn't happen. So, okay. So this actual full moon is in Gemini, 13 Gemini. The opposition to that moon, what's creating the full moon, is the sun. The sun is at 13 Sagittarius. It is, the sun went through the oscillation Lilith pattern on the 1st and the 2nd, just 2 days ago. So it's deeply immersed with the divine feminine, and I don't think that's a mistake. The Sun will also meet up with the square to 3i Atlas coming up on the 8th, so just in 4 days from now. And I think that is going to activate. I mean, the Sun is our very existence. It's our awareness. It's what lights us up. It's what gives us energy. The fact it's squaring the 3i Atlas path means we'll be working with 3i Atlas as a cosmic awareness. I guess it's kind of like it's going to wake up more intensely the core of who we are as expression. The square to 3i Atlas also just went across Mars on, let me see. Actually, it's doing it right now. It kind of did it yesterday, but it's also crossing Mars today. It crosses Juno today. So Juno is partnering on Mars. So you've got action and partnering on top of each other that just cross each other in a conjunction, and they both have gone through the oscillating Lilith path. So, I mean, the fact that all of these things have been activated with the square to 3i Atlas means Atlas is working with, maybe not so good in some people's versions of reality, but it's working with us on a core level. Venus is going to meet up with that on the 11th, and then Mercury meets up with the square to 3i Atlas on the 18th, the same, and it's also going to have the moon there in attendance right before it goes back through, and this will be the first time the square will go through the oscillating Lilith pattern, and that's going to be on the 20th and 21st. That's basically on the solstice. So the square will be squaring divine, the highest expression of divine feminine, which is the apogee of the moon, the farthest point, of that point for us as humans. We're going to be working with that as conscious awareness on the winter solstice. I don't think that's a mistake. Assuming that this path keeps moving. Now, I don't know who's, as far as how they're perceiving it to be stationary. If it's stationary in the sky, then that changes the trajectory of everything that I have here. So I'm going to have to find some updated data on that. But I'm not sure how they had a projection laid out for the path and when it was going to leave our solar system, and how that worked. But I mean, they did have it, enter or leaving the solar system. I want to say it was. Let me see, where's the stars? There's Castor Pollux. I want to say it leaves in Cancer. Yeah, it leaves in Cancer. It starts leaving on the last eclipse on March the 3rd, but they've got it leaving on the 12th, and it goes around the Sirius star system. So I don't think that's a coincidence either. Now, that's assuming that this holds true and there's no other shifts. Okay. Well, I didn't mean to get off that deeply on 3i Atlas, but I mean, everybody's talking about it. It's the buzzword. It's what's happening in our world right now. But this particular moon, though, being in Sagittarius, that's the other thing. It's right next to, at 13, the Great Attractor is at 14. The Great Attractor, Galactic Center, Supergalactic Center, these are all cosmic, galactic points. I think of download, alignment, where we align to our highest capacity. And that square is going to be on the Great Attractor with Venus in a week on the 11th. And the fact that the square of this thing is going across all these personal planets right before they go into the galactic center, I still think that this really is the crescendoing month taking us into the beginning of the year. And the fact that this is all happening this month, Mercury direct, Saturn direct, Neptune will go direct on the 10th. Saturn and Neptune, we've talked about this. Every astrologer's talked about it for, a couple of years. It's the first time this has happened in 160 years for sure. Well, actually, to have Saturn and Neptune together, both in Aries at the same time, I don't remember when that's happened. You're talking about hundreds of years. So that's a big deal. Again, Neptune is the illusion, it's the dream, it's also the delusion and its lower expression. But Saturn gives structure to the new dreams. All that's going to happen in, the middle of February. But the fact that they're now, Neptune's still in retrograde motion, but after the 10th, next week when it goes direct, they'll both be direct in Pisces. So they're going to be recovering all of this last parts of our deep dive into our spiritual awareness. So think about Saturn as structure and Neptune as your religious parts going in Pisces, and your dream, how you see the dream, and it's really overlaying and taking us back into the old one last time. So this really is proverbial, look back at all the parts of your life that never worked, because by the time we get to February, it's all going to start a whole new game. And again, Neptune's 165 years, Saturn's 29 years of patterns. So, and the fact that they're going to be there together it's really immense. I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm not going to project the value until then, because we're still going through such deep disintegration. The other thing with full moons are usually releasing. Full moon's going to light up activities. Gemini is all about communications. It's about, it rules all sorts of things. It rules cars. It rules, all sorts of ways in how we communicate, how we move around the world. And the fact that it's, it's the last, and it's also the super full moon. It's also the furthest full moon from the planet. So I think it's going to be really lighting things up more than anything has this whole year. And the fact it's right here at the oscillating Lilith, it has pure divine expression, divine feminine expression coming in, all at the same time. So again, partnership with Juno, Mars action, all of this stuff is really rewriting us as humans to express ourselves in new ways. So okay, that's all the opposition to the moon in Sagittarius, because that's where the sun is. The sun is creating that moon. The moon's actually in Gemini, but because it's an opposition and the sun's creating it, it really is a major force. When we go to Gemini, this actual moon at 13 Gemini, there's not really a lot around it. Psyche is over here at 3 degrees, in the 16th degree. Psyche is in retrograde motion. The Psyche is, I think, a higher function of Venus. It's kind of like how you love an expression in a higher capacity. And then Priapus, which is the opposition of the Black Moon Lilith point, which is the moon's perigee, which is the closest point of the moon's path to the Earth. But in its highest expression is the divine masculine. So the fact that Priapus is here with the actual moon, but the sun is over there with oscillating Lilith as the divine feminine expression. The sun is lighting up the moon, and the moon is here with the masculine. So I think that is also very symbolic. This is also the square to 3i Atlas on the other side of the zodiac. The square is not right on this full moon exactly, but it's pretty darn close. But there's not really a lot of other transiting. There's not a lot of conjuncting energies with this particular moon. Just Psyche right there, and Priapus coming up kind of behind it, but it's it's not even really close enough, I don't think, to be a heavy aspect. Saturn is earlier on in Gemini, but the reason I have focused so much on the sun creating the moon in Sagittarius is because that's where all the other action is. So it's in opposition to this full moon. And let me see, what else do we have that? I guess that's the main points with regards to this particular moon cycle. The other thing with this too, though, and I've talked about this quite a bit, back in May when we had that full moon at 22 degrees Scorpio was really taking us into, and we've had all of these planets going in and out of Scorpio. Scorpio is the secrets. Scorpio is the dark sexual, Jeffrey Epstein, all the nasty stuff. But especially, and the Narcissus Centaur has been going through all this degrees for this last year. Lots of narcissistic behavior being played out. Just look. I don't even have to give any example. You just observe it, and it's played out in all sorts of ways. But it's imploding on itself, and it may not be doing it the way we want it to. It may not be doing it in our timetable. It may not be, but nonetheless, it's happening. But this following that full moon was a new moon in Gemini on May the 26th, the next moon cycle. And I was reading, it may have been Sophia Simelli. She's one of the people I include the writings for. But she was talking about how this whole moon phase has been a major purification process. And I've said this before too. And you can't give away something you don't own individually or collectively. And I think Scorpio is about going and owning all the dark. It's going about going under all the rocks, going under everything that's been covered up for so long. It really is bringing it into the light of day. And really, it's only the tip of the iceberg. But that's one of the things I want to point out about these moon cycles and how they really are tied together in their function, in how they work and how they operate. So then there's that. We're also squaring the nodes. I think with this, if I remember right, with this moon cycle. Let me see: Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. Yeah, because the south node is basically at 1314 Pisces. Well, actually 13. It's an exact square. I'm sorry, the north node's in Pisces. So the north node's where we're going, individual and collective, what we came here to do. South node, of course, then it's going to be in Virgo. And let me see. Yeah. The south node's in Virgo. Oh, and Judith is attending the south node. Yeah, I mentioned that. And 3i Atlas, as far as a path, the actual path, is going to be over that node coming up on the 14th. So just in about a week and a half. So the south node has to do with our past, where we're coming from. But it can also be gifts. It doesn't have to be anything bad. But if there are things from the past that we have to clear, this cosmic 3i Atlas thing is attending us in doing that. And again, I mean, it's not going to affect each of us the same way, because if we've been doing our own internal work, then things I think can move much more easily. If it's someone who's still playing out all the distortion fields with their reality, then I have a feeling they're going to have a very tough time. Now, we'll see how that works out. I mean, we always hope and want those kinds of things, but we can sit there and project a value on what we want, but the reality is always something completely different, is it not? So, yeah. Let me see. I think that's, let mean, that's the biggest part, I think, of what's happening with all of this right now. The only other thing I'd really like to just kind of talk about a little bit more is this Saturn and Neptune at the end of Pisces. Saturn is structure. It's been retrograding back. It came out of Aries back into Pisces during this last bit. Neptune is sitting at that it's sitting at the 29th degree the whole time. So Neptune, of course, rules water, it rules oceans, it rules in anything that's I think illusory. Neptune is it's kind of like it's delusional, represents the new dream, but we're really cleaning out whatever that is, any old dream stuff, because 29 is the energetic degree of Pisces. So we're cleaning up the end of any old stories, individually and collectively. I don't know what that looks like. Now, Neptune is going to go back into Aries on January the 26th. So that's not going to be really too far away. I mean, you're talking about like 7 weeks. And then Saturn follows on February the 13th. And then they will meet up really beginning they actually conjunct together then on the 20th, on January 20th. That's going to be in the middle of the eclipse window. So that's why, we're really going to have all these initiation things in our lives with those eclipses. I mean, it's going to be wonderful. At that same time, Mercury is going to be coming forward and turning to start stationing retrograde on the first eclipse next time. So Mercury is going to be in retrograde from about the middle of that eclipse on. So we're going to have a lot of communication going backwards in the final degree of Pisces before going direct. And I don't think that we're going to really have a lot of forward movement, with everything moving forward with the new dreams until, probably into like April, because Mars will be crossing over on the 9th. The Sun will cross over, of course, with the spring equinox on the 20th. Then Mars on the 9th of April, Mercury on the 14th of April, Pallas Athena on the 26th of April, Vesta on the 13th of May. We've got all this planetary energy shifting all through next spring, creating, these new things for us. So again, it's not just one date. It's going to be a buildup of all of this stuff. Yeah. So I think those are the big points, that I think anybody, who's looking at things of awareness really kind of want to look at. So depending on where each of you are, and we talk about this each time too, are there any new creations you want to really pull forward? I mean, this really still is a month where things are lining up. And again, I've talked about trying to get this video together for this spreadsheet, and it hadn't happened yet. And when I looked at it, I really thought it was going to happen in October. I didn't even touch the spreadsheet October and all of November. I'm like, what was that about? But the Spirit had me going into much deeper views of awareness. I mean, I couldn't focus on the spreadsheet and go into some of the stuff that Spirit took me into, big picture stuff, while I was still kind of waiting for some other stuff to line up. I mean, maybe I was waiting for my name to be sitting here on 3i Atlas, which it is. I don't know when it's happening today. I mean, maybe it's just been, allowing, all of that stuff to come together. And if there's one thing I think we've all learned, if you're not moving forward with where you're supposed to be at a certain point, then you're not supposed to. I mean, everything is really perfect timing-wise. Everything comes forward when it's supposed to. So, I mean, I don't really feel bad that it is not. I do think that I will finally get things out this month. The other thing that I'm doing is also, I've got all these lines on this spreadsheet. You'll see when I actually make this video complete. And they're going across the signs. And I'm having to, because I want to take each sign and put them next to the aspect signs. In other words, for squares, I want to put all this, I want to be able to take all of the signs, the 30 degrees, and put them next to all this thing so we can see the aspects more easily, which means I have to undo the way I've got some of the lines going across because I can't copy and paste all these things like I would normally want to do. So that's one thing I'm having to modify, and that's time consuming. But it's completely worth it because it's going to take, it really gives the depth of understanding the sky, all of the aspects. It's going to be the most powerful part of the spreadsheet. I mean, outside of seeing the conjunctions and seeing the sky operate, the way everything works, the next part is seeing the squares and all that in action, because that's what gives the meaning to the astrology, all of the other aspects. So I really have to get this in before I do it. Anyway, so I think that's the bulk of, I think, what Spirit wanted to bring forth with this particular moon. And again, I mean, the other thing, the fact that this full moon is in Gemini, it really goes back to the core of every type of communication that you can imagine. Everything from, how you communicate with your friends, people in business, community, but also all the way down to the nanoparticles of your body and the way that you perceive yourself as spirit, as you work with spirit, as you communicate with your perception of God, the all that is, however you perceive that. Again, every type of communication, which is Mercury, because Mercury rules all the ways that we perceive everything about ourselves, and also with the other, whatever the other happens to be that we're looking at or observing in any given moment of time. So, yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to get myself over here and get ready to step into some nice quiet. So for all of you, if you can get in your quiet spaces for some deep meditation work, then we will go in and do some deep healing, shifting for ourselves, for everybody else. The other thing I really want to kind of point out again on this stuff, and I think I talk about it quite regularly, but it's always worth going into again, is doing as much spatial cleaning and clearing as you possibly can. Again, with everything as a frequency, there's something about densification, and we really don't want to carry anything forward. Let's see. 11 attendees. Well, the part that's me and the computer too, but so there's 9 of you. 9 is completion. Of course, if you add me, that's 10, and 10 resolves to a 1, which is new beginnings. Many ways to look at numerology of these things. Yeah. Okay. Excuse me. So just get real still, and I probably won't do a long session with this. I mean, we've been doing this so frequently, I think most of you, imagine, if not all of you, can go in pretty deeply pretty quickly because we've been, doing it so regular. Um, it's almost like a second nature. We've developed, um, we've evolved, I think, our frequencies so that we can deep dive, I think, pretty quickly going into meditative states. And hopefully each one of you have, again, I mean, everything's unique for each of you, depending on how long you've done this work. I mean, how many years you've done work with Judith, and of course, when we've been doing these calls, we'll be coming up on 2 years, coming up in March of these calls. That's pretty wild. I never would have dreamed. But the fact that we put these things out for ourselves, and we're putting it out in the world, the energy of it, we really are shifting, I think, things on core levels. So, okay. On that note, let's just go in. If you happen to be on a call listening to this later, this is always part of what we do in these meditative states, or I'm sorry, on telecalls, is after we discuss, the energies with these moons, we go in and do deep transcendental meditation to clear any distortions for ourselves, any places where we're still feeling stuck or lost or need healing, and then we also present that out into the world. So, so let's just allow Spirit to just come in. Again, I may not lead us in every time articulating this, but really just imagine Spirit coming in and going into the very core of the totality of who you are in the divine, in the physical, through the blood, through the skeletal systems, through the lymphatic systems, the neurological systems, circulatory, all the organs. Really on deep core levels, and cleaning and clearing all the densification out. And again, anything that you can clear in physical, stuff, still consider, if you don't need it, hadn't used it in a year or two, consider letting it go. I can attest that can be a difficult process. So I'm preaching to the choir here. At the same time, I also know when I am able to release more stuff, I feel lighter because I'm releasing all the energy that it held with it. So, okay. So just imagine going in and clearing. The Saint Germain and the violet flame. The violet flame is an amazing thing. The diamond chrysolite. Okay, everyone, thank you for attending. I hope this has helped balance you all out for this moon. And again, you're welcome to stay on for a while after. I'll go ahead and end recording and all that. So, again, until next time, thank you.